have we been involved in that regard?
I know that we neutralized Nicaragua in 1989, and the way we finally did that wasn't through the Contra effort. The way we did it was we intimidated and coerced President Daniel Ortega to the point that he agreed to have elections. We were tasked to go in. We tried every route that we could through Contra efforts, through negotiations through our embassies to get Mr. Ortega to have elections. Then finally, Vice President Bush said, "Okay, boys," and he was the ultimate man at the time in 1989. I want him neutralized. So we went in, and the intimidation was used on Ortega. We went in. We told him what date we would assassinate his second cousin, who was a very good friend of his. We went in. We told him to put as many armies around that man that he wanted, but that man was going to die. That man died on that date. 2 weeks later, the president of Nicaragua announced that there would be free elections.
I guess I better not ask you how you did it, then. So we'll let that one slide. How tragic. How many times has this happened around the world?
18 that I'm aware of.
Involving national leaders of other countries?
Yes.
How many governments have we overthrown?
Overthrown or have control of?
Have control of. Well, same difference, isn't it?
Well, no, not completely. You know, we give them a little levity.
Not much.
No, not much. I'd say about 15 that I'm aware of.
15 countries where we have control of. And in those 15 countries, how many instances and how many countries were involved in international trafficking of drug in one phase or another, in which our leaders in this country profited from it?
Drugs or arms, all of them. That was many of the purposes.
That's the main reason for doing it, then.
That's correct.
So we go in, neutralize, control 15 countries that you know of in order to gain money and profit through drugs and arms. Does democracy matter? Does the freedom for these people matter at all, as far as CIA is concerned?
Not to the elite.
Not to the elite. How about you fellas in the ranks?
We just have a job to do, you know. I would do my job as long as it didn't involve U.S. personnel. I would do my job. I had no problem with providing neutralization contracts on anyone outside of the U.S.
Okay, Chip, that's fine, except there is going to come a day, and there probably already has come a day, and you and I both know it's already happened, where you've had to neutralize an American citizen on many occasions, right?
Not me, but it has been done.
Exactly, that's what I'm saying, not you. But there have been others who have done this. And,
Ted, you know, it doesn't matter. Someone will always be out there to do it because they pay a lot of money to do it. We were paid $25,000 to $50,000 per mission.
Okay, so you're an operative, then. You're not a CIA agent, an official, quote, on-the-road agent?
As an agent, yes.
Okay. So you got a bonus out of this?
You bet.
Okay, folks, we'll be back just a few minutes. Ted Gunderson, Intelligence Report. And we're back. My guest today is Chip Tatum, 25-year CIA deep cover agent. Chip, we have 15 countries that we've, quote, neutralized, that you're aware of, primarily for the purpose of arms and drugs. You mean to tell me we have 14 other Iran-Contras?
Probably more than that. We were pretty compartmentalized in all of our operations. And let me qualify something I said just a minute ago. As a member of OSG, we didn't report any longer to our originating agency. In other words, if I was on an OSG mission, I wouldn't report directly to the CIA any longer. I would report only to my OSG commander. There was occasions where out of OSG we were tasked to, like on one occasion I was tasked to Defense Intelligence Agency to go interview a person in Honduras by the name of Ellis McKenzie. Some of you may know that name out there. This was in 1989. Ellis McKenzie was one of the AKAs that Barry Seal used to use. And when we found that a guy named Ellis McKenzie was calling in, we wanted to say, who's that? What's this? Seal's dead. When we got down there, we found Ellis McKenzie was actually one of Seal's employees, and Seal had used his name when he was dealing with the Colombians. McKenzie was trying to implicate Colonel Castro of the Honduran Air Force, who was one of our people, in some independent drug running, and we wanted to find out if Castro was indeed involved in that. So that was one of the purposes of that. But We were attached to different agencies, and our reports would be masked to that agency and truthful to our OSG-2.
Okay, are you talking about, I've understand a number of the gentlemen have been assigned officially to the Department of Energy, and when they had an assignment, they'd pull them out of the Department of Energy and send them on their way. Is that what you're talking about?
Absolutely. Yeah, sure. Or proprietary companies, you know. So I know some who are, there could be people tasked to the Board of Elections of a particular state. Who knows, you know?
So sometimes the state agencies were involved then.
Absolutely.
And how about city and county?
City, county, and private. The good thing about the National Security Decision Directives that came out in the 80s, signed by President Reagan, was that under the Special Situation Group and operational subgroups, we had the opportunity to utilize civilian assets also. So we would set up civilian proprietary companies, utilize those companies. I know one company that I had up in upstate New York, in Watertown, New York, during the construction of Fort Drum, the 10th Mountain Division. We were there to oversee, to investigate, and to look into these companies, look into the engineers, see if they were doing anything, see if they were bugging the buildings, you know, all kinds of things. But we worked through a proprietary company, and I was supplied with a $250,000 signature line of credit. I could walk into Key Bank and on any given day take out $250,000 cash. That was set up by Henry Hyde.
Henry Hyde, the congressman from Illinois.
That's the man.
I've heard his name now for years, Chip, but I've never gone public with that information because I didn't feel like I should because it was third hand. I had no direct knowledge. You have direct knowledge of this about Henry Hyde?
I have direct knowledge. He set up the accounts for us. Everything was done through an attorney out of upstate New York by the name of Whitaker. He set up the corporations for the proprietary companies.
And, folks, Henry Hyde is the U.S. congressman from, I think, the Chicago area, isn't he?
Illinois somewhere, yeah.
Yeah. And very prominent in Washington, D.C., and if you will follow some of his bills that he's introduced, you will see that their New World Order from the beginning to the end. Of course, they've got enough on him that they could send him up to jail for years if they wanted to, which is one of the techniques they use on a regular basis. If somebody gets out of line, they set him up, send him off to jail, then they're discredited. Right, Chip?
I know that's true.
Yeah, you know that's true. We're going to get into that later on one of these other shows. Now, is there anything else you want to mention about the Pegasus group before we move on?
I don't think so. I think Pegasus is alive. Pegasus is out there, and people need to be aware. Beware the white horse.
Well, the trouble is, you can be aware, but you won't know because they can come in on you in the middle of the night and do just about anything to you that they want to. Of course, they're pretty discreet, though, aren't they?
Yeah, we don't. You know, when we neutralize, we use compound poisons and so forth that imitate heart attacks and don't show up. So, you know, neutralizations and assassinations aren't blatant. Sometimes they are. Sometimes we'll use a South African to kill the Sweden leader or something like that.
Yeah, and you're talking about that mistake that they made up in Sweden here several years ago.
Right.
Do you want to go into that now, as long as you brought it up?
No, I don't think so.
Well, I understand there's certain things that you don't want to discuss, and we won't discuss them. Okay, let's go back to your training now. How did they recruit you? Where did they pick you out of a special class of special forces, or what?
I had many times, in 1971, I was on a classified mission in Cambodia. I was a new recruit. I'd been in the wrong place at the right time. I'd been through Special Forces training as a Air Force combat controller. We were sent through several TDYs to Bragg and Benning, and received quite a bit of training, including NBC training, E&E training, POW training. As an ex-prisoner of war in Vietnam, I was recovering in Clark Air Force Base, Philippines, and the person who had briefed the mission along with General Haig in 1971, Haig had come over from Washington. Mr. Peepers had come over from Washington in another CIA.
Peepers being Bill Colby.
Bill Colby. And when the mission was over and there were two survivors, the two survivors, from what I understand, also Chuck, the other survivor, we were recruited then into the CIA.
And what did who approached you? Not Hager or Colby, surely.
Colby debriefed me.
Colby himself, the head of the CIA? He was station chief then, though.
He was station chief over in Saigon at the time,
right?
The Phoenix program. And I worked for Colby, and he op-conned all of my, was under operational control of all of my military assignments, so I was sent back to TDY over to him, working, as a matter of fact, I still have one set of orders that sent me TDY in support as a communications specialist to Air America. I did a lot of work, jumped in a lot of zones trying to move downed aircraft, downed Air America pilots, downed military pilots who were where we weren't, into safe zones to have them picked up.
Well, now, back in those days, Colby was the one who initiated the, I don't know what the code word would be, the program to go in behind enemy lines and assassinate the civilian leaders, right, in Vietnam?
Well, no, Colby took over that was the Phoenix program. Colby took that over from someone else who had set that up. You know, the problem with the Phoenix program, and let me say...
Time for a quick break. Be right back, folks. Ted Gunderson, Intelligence Report. And my guest today is Chip Tatum, 25-year CIA deep cover agent. We start talking about Operation, or Phoenix program, Chip.
Right. You know, the biggest problem, the Phoenix program was designed to alleviate North Vietnamese and Chinese leaders who were running the show. You know, get rid of the commanders, you'll get rid of communication, get rid of the commanders, you'll get rid of the problem.
Well, it was very effective, certainly, wasn't it?
Absolutely. But the big problem we had with that is many of the people who were running the local intelligence networks, remember how I explained it just a little while ago, as in OSG, each operative, or each agent would have their own operatives that would work around them. We would set up our own network. Well, that was the same back during the Pegasus days, or during the Phoenix days, but we utilized a lot of military personnel who were special ops guys, who were special forces, you know, and primarily officers. And not to say anything about officers, because I were one. Many of the officers didn't have the credentials and the training that was needed to be able to go out and set up a intelligence network. Many of them were what you call ticket punchers, trying to get their way promoted through the ranks and shooting for the star. So the intelligence networks that they set up weren't viable networks. They weren't able to effectively rate the information that was coming in. So a lot of the information we got was bogus, and assassinations were performed on that bogus information, so we killed a lot of innocent civilians.
Tragic, very tragic. Let's go back to your training. So Colby and Haig recruited you. Colby himself debriefed you. What kind of training did you receive after from there on? Did you go back to Washington, D.C. for training, or where?
Went to Washington for training, went to, later years, I went over to Glenn County, Glencoe for training.
Where's Glenn County?
Glencoe, Georgia, southern Georgia.
Is that where they have the big base, training base for a number of agencies, including INS?
And FBI, right.
And FBI. I didn't know FBI was down there. We used to be in Quantico.
Yeah, they move a lot of them over there for advanced training. It's an advanced training area.
Okay, tell me a little bit about your training details.
Well, I know if I leave my key, if I lose my key, I can get in.
Okay.
A lot of electronics training. On my side, assault training. Understanding that my primary mission later was to get people in and get people out. I trained in Houston Airport, Houston ATC. I worked with maintenance personnel and radar systems. I trained through the EC-3A Advanced or Airborne Command Post and the AWACS program, so that I understood what they were looking at, what the controllers were looking at, so that I knew how to get around what they were looking at. I knew how to fool the system, and there's a way to fool each system. But you have to train with them. You have to be there. You have to be up there, understanding what they're looking at, to know how to fool them. The fact is, you can't beat that electronic beam that's coming down to you, but you have to fool that operator into thinking that you're not what you are.
Okay, so what you're saying is you were going to, you had a way or a technique of bypassing, avoiding being picked up on radar. Is that what you're saying?
That's correct.
Mm-hmm. And in order to, what? To drop drugs or to drop man out for an assignment or a mission or what?
Following 1985 and the Iran-Contra thing, they couldn't get any more drugs on board my